So let me come to the ewaybill, my topic. What is the objective of ewaybill? One waybill for movement of the goods across the India. After introduction of the waybill, now goods can move anywhere on the basis of one ewaybill. Before this, there was each state was having their own ewaybill system. We may require the number of documents for every state. So that is now taken care by this. It checks and prevents the tax evasion because it will be on the one portal, and that portal will be in the control of the GST officer. So GST officer now can see how much goods has been moved for your GST number. So it will definitely a good check on the tax evasion, hassle-free and tracking of the movement of goods. Now anybody can track the location of the goods. This is although not fully in place, it will be there in place. After that, anybody can have tracking of the goods. Till now, this ewaybill government is trying to link with the these toll plazas. So whenever a vehicle will cross a particular toll plaza, then they will able to track the location of the vehicle through the ewaybill portal. And the officer can easily verify what are the goods loaded on this particular vehicle as and when they put the ewaybill number on the device, or this is also can be verified through their mobile system. So it is very easy to track this. Friends, the entire discussion, this today's discussion is based on one section, that is section 68, inspection of the vehicle in movement. And friends, the section 61 says the person in charge. I just want to discuss this because it is very important. One section having 3 subsections only, nothing, not a very big section. The person in charge of the conveyance carrying any consignment of goods or of value exceeding a specified amount shall carry with him the document and the device prescribed in this behalf. Friends, do not worry. This device not prescribed now. It will be prescribed. This is URFID that which will be installed in the vehicle, and every street will or the major street or national highway will have this device reader. So this will come. We will not discuss anything it, but it is part of the section. So I have taken. So the document must carry with him the document. Second, the section 68(2) says the detail of the document required to be carried shall be validated in such manner as may be prescribed. Means this document to be generated on the ewaybill portal. The section 68(3) talks about the things where inspection and all this. This is saying that where any conveyance is intercepted by the proper officer at any place, he may require the person in charge of the conveyance to produce the document for verification and also allow the inspection of the goods. So means the officer can verify the documents which is available with the person carrying the goods, and he have also authorization to verify the goods or inspection of the goods. So this is all section 68 talks about. Now moving further, the rules which is applicable for our today's discussion, that is rule 138A, 138, 138A, 138B, 138C, 138D, and newly introduced rule 138E. So let's start our discussion. First, I will just touch upon section 68 prescribes this rule, and there are 6 rules. Section 138 says information to be furnished prior to commencement of the movement of goods and generation of ewaybill. Rule 138A says document and device to be carried by a person in charge of a conveyance. Means the documents which must be available with the person transporting the goods. And rule 138B says verification of document and conveyance. Means the verification of the same can be taken up. This is prescribed in rule 138. Now moving to 138C, inspection and verification of goods. So it is not only verification of the good documents, it is also verification of the goods also covered under rule 138 C. Facility for uploading information regarding detention of the vehicle. Friends, will discuss later on. If vehicle is detained more than 30 minutes, then the person in charge of the conveyance have been asked to upload the information on the ewaybill portal. So the any delay, any held up will be uploaded on the central portal. Now coming to the rule 138E, blocking of generation of ewaybill in case of non-filer of return. If you are a person who is filing return quarterly, means you are covered under section 10 or notification 2 of 2019, means composition dealer. You are filing return quarterly, then 2 quarters returns you have not filed, or you are other than this, then you have 2 period return you have not filed, means monthly returns. If you have not filed for 2 period, your ewaybill portal may be blocked. So let's we move ahead. Who are the stakeholders? Who are the person who is related with this ewaybill? Generation of the ewaybill and rejection of ewaybill, generation by other party against his or her name, if it does not belong to him or her. The main supplier is the person who is supposed to the person considered as a stakeholders. Now recipient of the goods, generation of the ewaybill, rejection of the ewaybill generated by other parties in his name. If it does not belong to him, he can reject or he can accept. So he is the recipient. Transporter, he is also authorized to generate ewaybill. And friends, generation of ewaybill means filling up part A of the ewaybill. Ewaybill have 2 parts. First is the part A and second is the part B. So generation of part A is known as generation of ewaybill, and generation of part B is known as updation of the ewaybill. So whenever you use the word generation of ewaybill, it means the filling up of the part A of the ewaybill, and whenever we are using the part B, it is updation of the ewaybill. So transporter is supposed to do, and tax officer, he can verify the ewaybill and consignment carried with the ewaybill. So let me introduce now what is ewaybill and the basics of the ewaybill that we always keep in mind. Ewaybill is an electronic waybill for movement of goods, which has to be generated digitally. So the basic information for movement of goods, ewaybill is required. If there is no movement of goods, ewaybill is not required, not at all required. And the responsibility, this is basic questions people so many times ask. If somebody has not generated the waybill, who will be held liable? If somebody has violated the provision, then who will be the person responsible for this? The responsibility of generation of ewaybill shall be the person who causes the movement of goods. Person who causes movement of the goods by the recipient or by the supplier. Any of this. The person who is causing movement of goods is responsible, is having responsibility for generation of ewaybill. He may ask other person to generate ewaybill on his behalf, or a transporter may also be authorized to generation for the purpose of generation of ewaybill. So this is the main crux of the ewaybill. For movement of goods, there must be a movement, and the person who is causing movement of the goods is having responsibility of generation. Every registered person shall generate ewaybill if consigner or consignee as registered person or the transporter of the goods can generate ewaybill in relation to supply and relation to for reason other than supply and due to inward supply from a unregistered person. These are the 3 situations where we have to raise the ewaybill. And transporter, please mind it, transporter not having authorization, he should not raise any ewaybill unless until he is authorized for this particular purpose. If he is generating without proper authorization, he may face problem in future. So transporter on an authorization received from the registered person may generate ewaybill. In case of transportation of goods through e-commerce operator or through e-commerce, then the waybill should be furnished by the e-commerce operator. In case of transportation of goods by courier, it must be furnished by the courier agencies. I hope you have understood. In case of e-commerce operator and courier agencies, there is a variance. Whenever there is a transportation of goods by rail, air, and vessels, then this transporter will not raise the bill. Then this is the responsibility of the registered person, buyer or seller, to generate the waybill. In case of job works, e-waybill may be generated by the job worker if he is registered, and if he is not registered, then it should be generated by the principal only. And friends, always keep in mind, it is not that if it is transported by a goods transport agency or by a goods vehicle, you have to generate e-waybill. If you are transporting it through your own conveyance means a goods vehicle, or might be in your personal car. Sometimes you are transporting goods. Suppose you have purchased a television and then you are taking it to your place. Value exceed the amount prescribed for the generation of waybill, or you have purchased a mobile. Now mobiles are also available for a value more than 50,000 or a lakh rupees. So on conveyance, you are supposed to generate e-waybill. Hired conveyance, when you have taken the vehicle on hire, basically you have not giving the goods to a goods transport agency, you have taken the vehicle itself on hire, then also you are required to generate e-waybill. Now, third type of situations, friend, please mind it, when goods are transported on a public conveyance. What is the difference between goods transport by rail or air or vessels or public conveyance? The difference between the transportation of goods by railway means you have given the goods to the railway. The railway has issued a receipt of that. But it might be so that you are traveling by a Rajdhani train and you are carrying the goods along with you as a passenger baggage. Or you are in an aircraft and you are taking goods as a passenger baggage. Then these will be known as public conveyance. Or in a bus also. Somebody may take the goods along with him, considering it as a passenger baggage. And then he has also to update part B. Friends, generation of e-waybill is part A, as I mentioned, but unless until you update the part B, it will not be considered as a valid e-waybill. The validity of e-waybill is not started till you have not updated the part A. And when you have to generate, if value is more than what the word used here, before movement of the goods of consignment value exceeding 50,000 in relation to a supply. You may also generate e-waybill voluntarily, even if the value of consignment is less than 50,000. No restriction on this. You can generate a e-waybill for value of 10 rupees only. Nobody is restricting it. And why and what is the purpose you will raise e-waybill even if the value less than the prescribed limit? Friends, there is a benefit always. That will be a recorded transactions. Then tomorrow nobody can doubt on these transactions, whether this transaction was a bogus transaction. If e-waybill is there, it is a valid proof that the transportation of the goods has been taken place. And second thing, whatever information you are uploading on the e-waybill portal, getting updated for the purpose of GSTR 1. So you are not required to update this information again. So friends, let me understand the value 50,000. How we will calculate. So this is the first invoice where value of the goods is 40,000. I will put all 5 examples before all of you. Then I will expect from all of you to answer where waybill is required. So you can note down, and in the chat box you can give answer. So this is the invoice 1. Value of the goods is 40,000. GST is 9,000. Then whether waybill is required or not. Now moving to the second invoice. Second invoice value of the goods is 45,000. GST is 9,900 here. Please answer whether the waybill is required or not required. Whatever we are discussing is discussing considering the 50,000. I will discuss about the 1 lakh later on. Now this is third type of invoice. Value of the goods is 60,000 and GST is 10,800 only. Please do not think about the rate and everything. That will be taken care. Nothing to worry about this. Please concentrate on the value. And fourth type of invoice where value of the goods is 40,000. Say you have purchased a laptop. That is value of the goods is 40,000. And value of service, that means you have also get a software installed there. You ask someone to update some software on your laptop, and for you have paid 15,000 for that, and GST is 9,500. So last invoice, you have sent your equipment for the service, and the value of service is 60,000, and the GST is 10,800. So this 5 example of the invoices I have compiled. Now I am expecting all of you to answer. So I think all of you have answered. First is no, second is also no, third is yes, fourth is no, fifth is no. Friends, very confusing state. Let me discuss, friends, one by one. Your answer are not same. Answer is not the same. It is different for different person. So let me come back to each and every queries and we will discuss. First is the value of the goods is 40,000 and GST 9,000. And before that, let me tell all of you, they say consignment value. And for the purpose of consignment value, they have categorically mentioned that the tax will also be form part of the consignment value. So this thing we must always keep in mind. For ewaybill generation, the consignment value includes taxes also. Please do not go by the valuation of section 15. Section 15 value we will take, then we will add the taxes there. So no, it is not required. Here it is required because value of the goods plus taxes, as I mentioned, so and as required by the law also. So here ewaybill is required because both taken together it is more than 50,000. Third, obviously required, it is more than 50,000. And fourth one, now it is a big question. When you are transporting these goods, whether the value of these goods is now, you are not separately transporting it. Question which I want to throw before all of you is that the goods, laptop which you have purchased is value 40,000, but the software which you have now updated on this, whether this will amount, yes, the consignment value is now more than 50,000. So you have to generate ewaybill. If you are not generating ewaybill, might be you can escape the eyes of the officers because there will be 2 separate invoice, one for goods, one for the services. It may be, but my humble suggestion to all of you, you must generate ewaybill. And friends, when I am saying the value of service itself is 60,000, then obviously goods value is more than that. And in why I have taken this example I have taken just for the reason that please do not go by the value of the service. In case of value of the service, you have to see the expected value of the goods for which service has been done. Whenever you are doing some transportation of the goods, say a television or your motor car are not usually transported on a motor conveyance, so they are moves their own. But there is the generator set where you have paid the 60,000 as the service charges, must be value of the goods is more than that. And friends, any service invoice, please do not generate ewaybill on the basis of any service invoice. Ewaybill should be generated in those, in case of service invoices, on the basis of delivery challan. Whenever there is a invoice for the service, ewaybill will not be generated on the basis of service invoice. It should be generated on the basis of delivery challan, because movement of the goods cannot take place on the basis of service invoices. This is also required to be generated for in case of job worker. And for handicraft goods, irrespective of the value, if transportation is transported from one state to another state, that is interstate supplies, ewaybill is required. And when goods are transported by rail, then ewaybill may be generated after starting of the movement of the goods, but it must be produced at the time of taking delivery of the goods. So this is the requirement. This we have discussed value. This will include central tax, state tax, and union territory tax, and integrated tax. Any charge cesses on this. And when a particular invoice having both the taxable as well as exempt supply, then you can exclude the exempt supplies, because we will discuss in the few slides that the exempt goods are not liable for e-way bill. Friends, this is the national portal where you can generate the e-way bill. That is ewaybill gst.gov.in. And friends, now let me inform all of you, the e-way bill generation 50,000 we have discussed, that is for all interstate supplies. But intrastate supplies, state have their own freedom to announce the limit, and few of the states, I think you must be aware, but if you are not aware, let me tell you, the four locations for states, and I believe by the time you all must have been learned that state includes union territory, legislative assemblies, then they will be considered as state for the purpose of GST. This you are always keep in mind. So 28 states and 3 union territory having their own legislation. So 31 states for the purpose of GST. First is the Bihar, second is the Delhi, third is the Tamil Nadu, and fourth is the West Bengal. These 4 states where intrastate movement of goods viewable is condition has been relaxed to 1 lakh rupees. So for interstate, even in these states, interstate movement is 50,000, and all other states limit is 50,000 only. So except 4 states, the limit is 50,000. So for our entire discussion, we will mention 50,000 only, nowhere 1 lakh. Method of generations, waybill can be generated online through laptop, through Android mobile phone, via application programs, via SMS, tool-based bulk generation. These are the ways government has prescribed. Third base. And friends, now moving to the e-waybill relevant forms. Earlier there was only 4 forms, now it is having 6 forms. EWB01, that is the main e-waybill furnishing information prior to commencement of the movement of the goods. E-waybill, that is EWB2, is furnishing information regarding consolidated e-waybill. We will discuss consolidated e-waybill. C is the summary of report of every inspection of goods in transit recorded by the proper officer. E-waybill 4 is uploading information regarding detention of the vehicle. Wherever the vehicle is detained for more than 30 minutes, the in charge of the vehicle should update the by filing EWB 4 if it is stopped detained more than 30 minutes. And these 2 new forms, friends, EWB 05, if your e-waybill portal has been blocked, we will discuss in the few next slides. If your e-waybill portal has been blocked, then this is the application to Commissioner for opening of this e-waybill portal, and EWB6 is the form for order for allowing the registered person to generate e-waybill again. Now, taking validity of the e-waybill up to 100 kilometers 1 day in case other than over-dimensional cargo. We will discuss over-dimensional cargo. So friend, it is 100 per day. For our discussion till now, let me discuss, it is 100 per day. Next 100 kilometer of part thereof, 1 additional day other than over-dimensional cargoes. So this is the validity of the e-waybill. What is the over-dimensional cargo? Let me discuss now. Shall mean a cargo carried as a single individual unit and which exceeds the dimensional limit prescribed under Rule 93 of the Center Motor Vehicle Rules. Means for which that purpose we required specialized vehicle. Normal vehicle cannot carry the over-dimensional cargo. We have specific vehicles, or some time it is vehicle required to be constructed for the purpose of movement of the over-dimensional cargo. So when there is a over-dimensional cargo, it is 20 kilometers for 1 day, and for every additional or part of the addition of the 20 kilometer, additional 1 day will be allowed. So this is the way to calculate the validity. And distance of validity for e-waybill shall remain the same if goods are supplied through multi-mode of transportation. Part of the transportation has been done by rail or part of the done by the road. Then validity to be combined together and to be calculated. So friends, when the first time the EWay bill was introduced, it was having validity of 24 hours. That is one day. But when it is revamped, the entire website, now it is having the first entire day you are getting, with the day you are generating EWay bill, next day midnight it will be considered as first day. So it is not equal to one day, it is 11 hour 59 p.m. Now I have used the word 11 hour 59 p.m. Friends, if it is already 12 p.m. or the 12 night, then date will change. And we have facility that the user can update part B, that is vehicle detail, for each change in the vehicle in the course of movement of consignment to a destination point. Friends, this slide must be visible to you, and what is the heading you are seeing in the slide is the no way will required, because we are used to use this word. But friends, I'm sorry to mention here, this no e-way bill required doesn't mean that you are not required to generate e-way bill. If transporter location is within 50 kilometers, then it is not required to update part B of the e-way bill. But you have to generate e-way bill. It is not mentioned that without e-way bill, you can start movement of the goods. It might show that you are taking vehicle, your own vehicle, and delivering or sending these goods to the transporter godown. If both of these locations are within 50 kilometers, then updation of part B is not required. So similarly, when goods are coming from the transporter godown to the delivery place or the consignee's place, if both the locations are within 50 kilometers, then this updation of part B is not required. Not mandatory, we should use the word, proper word, because if somebody wants to update, e-way bill portal will not deny to accept these informations. They will take the informations as given by you. So friends, now moving to the items where e-way bill is not required. First and foremost, when transportation of goods done by non-motorized conveyance, then no e-way bill is required. So you must note it. And friends, before that, let me tell all of you, there is no kilometers, no distance prescribed for non-generation of e-way bill. There was a misconception that e-way bill is not required if we are moving goods within a certain distance. As per e-way bill, if it is done by a motorized conveyance, then even you are sending goods to your next door or across the street, or might be the first lane to the second lane of your city. If you have used a motorized conveyance for transportation of these goods, then e-way bill is required. And friends, do not take it surprise. Then even you are taking goods from your own godown to your factory, or your factory to your godown, e-way bill is required if value is more than 50,000, if it is done by motorized conveyance. And friends, one practical example coming to my mind. A few days back, one person visited my office, then he was discussing this. Then he told me, sir, I will tell that I have done this by cart or bullock cart, I have done this transportation. I have not used the motorized conveyance. Friends, if you really want to prove that, and if you really want to show that, or if this is the really fact of the case, that transportation has been done by non-motorized conveyance, then e-way bill is not required. No doubt on this. But you have to understand first whether this is a practical scenario, whether you have debited expenses for this transportation of these bullock carts, because you may require n number of trips for doing this. So be careful. Let me come back to our discussion. If it is non-motorized conveyance, no e-way bill is required. If it is a motorized conveyance, then e-way bill is required. That means even on a two-wheeler you are doing some transportation of the goods, e-way bill is required. Where goods are being transported from customs port, airport or air cargo complex, and land custom station to an inland container depot or container freight station for clearance by custom, then no e-way bill is required. In respect of movement of goods within such area as notified, no e-way bill is required, that is 50 kilometers. We have discussed. Where goods other than de-oiled cake. I want to highlight this. De-oiled cake is a item where e-waybill is required, even it is not covered under taxable items. So non-taxable items, no e-waybill is required. If it is taxable item, then only e-waybill is required. But one item, that is de-oiled cake, where e-waybill is mandatory. And similarly, we have one item where GST is applicable, but e-waybill is not required. If it is coming to your mind, you can give answer in the chat box, where e-waybill is not required, but it is the item is covered in the list of GST. So this is one exception I have discussed. De-oil cake, no tax is applicable. Still, it is covered in e-waybill portal. Where goods are transported are alcohol for human consumption, petroleum, crude oils. This item which are outside GST purview, that is alcohol for human consumptions and 5 petroleum products. No GST, no e-waybill is required. Item covered under Schedule 3, which are not considered as supply of goods or supply of services, those items are also not required. Where goods are being transported under custom bond or under custom supervision, no e-waybill is required. Where there is a transit cargo, friends, I think you must be aware about the transit cargo. Transit cargoes are which is transported from a country which is known as landlocked countries. India having two neighbor countries, that is Nepal and Bhutan. These two countries are known as landlocked countries because no port these countries are having, seaport touching their boundaries. So these are known as landlocked countries. So any transit cargo from these countries or to destination in these countries or from originated from these countries, no we will require. Any movement of the defense material, no e-waybill is required, where consigner or consignee is the Ministry of Defense. Where consigner is the central government or any state government or local authority for transportation of goods by rail. This exemption is not available for the purpose of transportation of goods by road. So be careful for transportation of goods by road. In case of government goods, also required to be generate e-waybill. Where empty container are being transported, then no e-waybill is required. And friends, this is another exemptions, that is the last one, where goods are transported to a distance up to 20 km from the place of business of the consignor to a way bridge for the weighment purpose. So e-waybill is not required, friends, but be careful. If you are sending vehicle for the weighment purposes, then there must be a delivery challan, because no goods can come out of your place without having any document. Either it should have an invoice. If invoice is not generated, because you are not having the weighment, so weighment is due. So even if weighment is due, you must have a delivery challan mentioning that why these goods are being taken out, purpose and the distance of the way bridge where you are taking these goods. No waybill is required in case of liquefied petroleum gas supplied to household and non-domestic exempted categories customers, kerosene oil sold by PDS, because kerosene oils having two categories now, which are sold by the public distribution systems are different, but kerosene oil and other kerosene oil are different, because government has colored this kerosene oil, PDS kerosene oil, differently to segregate the items. Post package transported by the Department of Post, natural and cultured pearls, precious and semi-precious stone, precious metal clad with precious metals. So I hope all of you must have been answered. I have not seen the chat box. So this is the item which I was telling all of you is the jewelry. Jewelry is the item which is covered under the GST list, but e-waybill is not required. For goldsmith, silversmith, wares and other articles, currencies, if currencies are transported, then e-waybill is not required. Used personal and household effects. A big question, friends. Used personal and household effects. I have in the beginning mentioned before all of you that if you are carrying mobile or a television, you required EUA bill. But tomorrow you can ask me that these are the personal and household effects. Friends, this you have to decide. If you are going to take credit, then this will not be considered as personal and household effects unless until you have taken it to the registered premises. To my suggestion, you must generate EUA bill for first time transportation of goods from the buyer's place to your place. Once it is delivered to your place, you started using it, then EUA bill is not required. Coral, unworked or worked coral, no EUA bill is required. EUA bill can be modified for part A whenever you are assigning to the other transporters after the detail of the conveyance has been updated by the transporter in part B of EW01. The consigner or the recipient, as the case may be, who has furnished information in part A shall not be allowed to assign the EUA bill number to another transporter. So this is, we have to see, transporter cannot change, but vehicle can change. This is the consolidated EUA bill. When number of goods are transported in a particular vehicle and you have individual EUA bill for the each and every consignment, then you can also generate, this is also, please, I'm using the word, you can also generate a consolidated EUA bill. It will help you whenever there is a vehicle change, then you have to just update the consolidated EUA bill, not required to change the individual EUA bill. This is only helping in this type of situation that we always keep in mind. EUA bill is an additional document, not a substitute of tax invoice delivery challan. This we always keep in mind. It is not mandatory that there must be a printed EUA bill must be carried. Once you have generated EUA bill, it cannot be deleted, it cannot be edited or modified, but it can be cancelled. Whatever EUA bill you have generated, it will not be deleted or it cannot be edited or modified, but it can be cancelled by the generated within 24 hours, and recipient can reject the EUA bill at his end in the common portal within 72 hours. Friends, if the recipient is not cancelling the EUA bill within 72 hours, then it will be considered as accepted by him. So it is the responsibility of the recipient of the goods. He must visit the EUA bill portal on regular basis and see how many EUA bill has been generated in his GST. And as I mentioned, it is to be generated for movement of goods other than supply also. So this we always keep in mind. Sales return, it will be done on the basis of credit note. Any document is generated by the seller of the goods or by the supplier of the goods are recognized in GST law. Any document generated by the buyer of the goods or the receiver of the supply is not recognized in the law. So for goods return also, a credit note to be generated by the person who has made the original supply. So it will need to be generated for sales return also. If consignor or consignee is unregistered, then we have to mention URP in the registration column as unregistered persons. In case of any held up of the vehicle, it should be updated part B that we always take care. Bill to ship to transactions we will discuss in detail, so I am not taking the last point here. The transporter is registered under GST is having GSTN, then such transporter need to again obtain, not again obtain the trans ID, and instead such his 15-digit GSTN can be itself be used as trans ID. Friends, let me tell all of you, registration is one requirement, that is GSTN, we all know. But in case of goods transport agency, if they are transporting goods, and only for those parties where the party will pay the tax under reverse charge, then registration is not mandatory for goods transport agency. But for the ewaybill purpose, they require TRAN ID. This API is available where you have more invoices through API ewaybill can be generated. In case of high sea sale, as the supply effect before the goods crosses the customs station, ewaybill is not required. And ewaybill cannot be cancelled if it is verified in transit according with the provision of Rule 138B. Suppose within 24 hours, a ewaybill has been generated and movement of the goods has already started. But if you want to cancel because you understand it is wrongly done, So it is not allowed to you cancel the EUA bill if verification is already carried out. So once it is verification is carried out, even if within 24 hours, EUA cannot be cancelled. And friends, if you have not generated Part B, only generated Part A, then it will remain valid for 15 days. And friends, revalidation of EUA bill can be done now. Earlier it was 4 hours from the cancellation time. That time, validity time, I should use the word. The validity time before 4 hours or after 4 hours it can be done. Now it is changed to 8 hours prior to the cancellation time, or now 8 hours after the cancellation time it can be revalidated. Beyond that, revalidation is not permitted. Penalty is 10,000 without covering a specified document. EUA bill is one of the specified documents, shall be liable to a penalty of 10,000 or tax to be avoided, whichever is greater. So minimum penalty is 10,000 rupees in case of transportation of goods without EUA bill. And these are the detention under section 129. And if somebody pays these prescribed amounts, then it will be released. And confiscation is also prescribed in the law. Failure to pay tax, penalty within 14 days, and as the order of detention under 129, then 130 will attract the confiscation. And friends, since this penalty was too high in nature, government later on, as per one section 125, have relaxed the penalties if these are considered as minor mistakes. What are the minor mistakes? Spelling mistake in the name. If some spelling mistake in the name or names of the person, then it will be considered as minor mistakes. If PIN code is wrongly mentioned, then it will be considered as minor mistake. But please mind it, if wrongly mentioned PIN code, it should not increase the validity of the EUA bill. Then it will be taken as otherwise. If address, there is some mistake in the address of consignor or consignee, that is error. Some error is there. Document number, 1 or 2 digit of the document number mentioned in the EUA bill is wrong, or the HSN code has not been mentioned 4 digit or 6 digit, it is only mentioned 2 digit, and vehicle number, 1 or 2 digit in the vehicle number is wrongly mentioned, then out of these 6 situations, penalty will be 1,000 rupees only. It will not be 10,000 rupees. In case of bill to ship to transactions, friend, EUA bill can be generated by the person who is causing, who is the first seller or second seller, or the buyer ultimately means ABC. Anybody can generate the EUA bill. A has placed an order to B, and B has sent this good to Mr. C. So invoice which is to be issued by Mr. A on Mr. C, and Mr. B will raise an invoice on Mr. A. So either of the invoice can be used for generation of the EUA bill, and similarly you have to mention these informations. And these are the form for inspection. When the inspection is carried out, these are the 11 forms, and to be issued, how to reply, statement of the goods and conveyance, physical order of the physical verification, order of extension of time, physical verification record, release order, order of detention, notice under section 129(3), bond for provisional release of the goods, order of the documents, notice of the confiscation, and order of confiscation of the goods, conveyance, and demand of tax and final payment. Then I will able to answer all your questions quickly by visiting the Q&A box. Sir, goods on conveyance can be a private vehicle, for example, private car or bike, or it mandatory to be a commercial vehicle. On vehicle may be a private vehicle. They have not mentioned the requisitions of a goods vehicle even a private car used for transportation of goods is required. If delivery of goods is taken at a store worth, say, buying a mobile phone 65,000, even there, then in such case EUA bill is required to be generated, since the place of supply is the store itself. No sir, place of supply will be your registered address. If you are taking credit, then be careful. Your registered address is considered as your place of supply. So do not confused with this. Now coming to the next question, Rekha madam has asked, what is the consequence if e-way bill is not generated when own transportation is used? Same consequences, that is penalty of 10,000. Even transportation is completed, I feel in future officer will definitely ask why penalty should not be levied on you. As Sai Sri Harsa, is e-way bill required even in case of exempt supply other than de-oiled cake? E-way bill is not required. That I have discussed. Example, over dimensional cargo. Sometimes the boilers are oversized. Sometimes the big equipments are purchased by the company organizations. I remember one of the over dimensional cargo, one statue was brought to Calcutta. These coaches of the metro railways are being transported in the through road. So these are over dimensional cargos. Sir, A sold goods worth 45,000 under invoice 1 and goods worth 49,000 under invoice 2. Both the invoices were raised on the same date. Is e-way bill is required if both are raised on the same consignee? My humble suggestion, please generate e-way bill. The generation of e-way bill is 2 minutes job. Please do not avoid it. There may be a allegation on you. Just to avoid e-way bill, you have generated 2 invoices. Just to avoid something, some malpractices was your intention, officer may blame you. So please avoid this. And this you are saying goods sold 45,000. I think you are also keeping in mind that taxes to be calculated on this. So please do not ignore the taxes on this. 49,000 or 45,000 plus taxes. So if you have not added the tax, anyway you are liable to e-way bill. What is the consequence if e-bill is not generated when on transport is in use? I think I have discussed. Sumit, example of over dimension cargo done, sir. Mr. Vijay want to know, sir, goods is more than 50,000. If but within 50 kilometer in intra-state, sir, 50 kilometer e-way bill is required for even half an inch. If it is done in motorized conveyance, even half an inch, you might have done the goods had loaded on a vehicle and you decided to sell to the next door neighbor, it is required. If it is once it is said. So 50 kilometer is not a criteria, it is criteria only for bringing goods from transporter godowns to your godown or taking goods from your godown to transporter godown. And in those cases also generation of e-way bill is mandatory. Only updation of part B is not mandatory. That I mentioned, sir, and please mind it. Do not take it otherwise. Always keep in mind, only those type of situation, 50 kilometer limit is there. Generation of e-way bill is updation of part A of the e-way bill. And updation is part B. Part B you can avoid, part A is mandatory. Srikanji want to know little bigger question, but I will answer. When goods are purchased from agriculture market yard, local lorry, transport, factory is located within 5 kilometers of radius of agriculture market, e-way bill generated is compulsory? Yes, sir. I have given answer to this particular question in the last question only. Pinal want to know if material is not accepted, rejected, not delivered to the customer, on what document material should be returned. I have discussed this. Pinal, basically we have to generate a credit note. On the basis of credit note, you have to generate another e-way bill and you can bring back the goods to your godown, or you can transit it. If you generate another invoice to another customer within the same locality or some other, you want to transport the material, you can generate another invoice after generating the credit note. Credit note must be. Ankit Modi want to know if goods are transported by registered person to unregistered person, then I was reading this query, somehow it, Pinal I have answered. No, this is another question from the Pinal. Let me first do this Ankit Modi question. If goods are transported by registered person to unregistered person, then what detail to be keep in part A? We have discussed this unregistered person. You have to mention in place of GST and number. Rekha, what is the consequences if e-way bill is not generated when carried by own transporter? Same consequences. We have discussed this, Rekha. And Mr. Natharanjan want to know, sir, on generating e-way bill, will the transaction be updated in GST 1? Yes, you can import these transactions on GSTR 1. Supply already happened without generation of e-way bill. Sales concluded, GST on supply also paid. Still penalty can be imposed for non-generation? Yes, you have violated the e-way bill conditions. Have to face, or you have to answer the queries which may come from the department regarding the non-generation of e-way bill. Failure to endorse export means what will be the consequences if verified? Sir, it will be depend upon the officer what allegation he bring on you, and there is no standard consequences. This will all depend how the officer seeing this. E-way bill for import goods from port to factory as multiple vehicle before delivery of full quantity e-way bill is expired, then what should be done? Sir, you should have raised the e-way bill per vehicle. Never e-way bill to be generated on the same e-way bill for two vehicles. E-way bill must be generated for different vehicles, and this e-way bill has been Mr. Nirav. Let me tell you, this e-way bill has wrongly generated. You are basically generated e-way bill on the basis of the invoice of bill of entry. Here you should have raised the delivery challan for each vehicle, and Xerox copy of the bill of entry must be attested. Bill of entry must be accompany this delivery challan. Does e-way bill required for goods transported through courier? Yes, courier agency has the responsibility to raise the e-way bill. I think I have discussed all the questions, and I just wish to thank all of you